Hello everybody, good day to all. I am Dr. Deepak Bhanot from Auriga Research, and on behalf of all my colleagues, I extend a warm welcome to all present in today's webinar. First of all, let me see if everybody is able to hear my voice. Now the recording will be available and it will be sent to all the subscribers subsequently. HPLC has acquired a top position in analytical research and development due to astronomical growth in applications in all fields, and in particular pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, foods, forensics, and environmental monitoring. Pharmaceutical industry alone accounts for a major segment of HPLC market share. Advances in instrumentation, automation, stationary phases, column technologies, and detection systems have contributed to high laboratory throughputs. LC-MS systems have helped us achieve the ultimate in terms of resolution, accuracy, and detection limits. It is my pleasure to share a few words on the key contributors to technical content of labtraining.com, a site which is dedicated to upgrade the knowledge and skills of laboratory scientists and guide fresh entrants in analytical research and quality control areas. Now for a quick introduction, I'll first introduce myself, Dr. Deepak Bhanot. I am a PhD in analytical chemistry from Loughborough University of Technology, UK, and I had done MTech in modern methods of chemical analysis and control from Indian Institute of Technology, New Delhi, India. I am heading this training and development initiative in Auriga Research as Vice President Training, and I have a backing of about 30 years experience in analytical instrumentation, and I have contributed a number of articles on HPLC and related areas. Next, it's my pleasure to introduce Dr. Saurabh Arora, who is a PhD in pharmaceutics. He is the founder of this website lab-training.com and the executive director, Arbro Pharmaceuticals Limited. He is also managing director of Auriga Research Limited and heads services business of Arbro as well as Auriga. We have a team of 4 labs located in different locations with a total strength of over 200. So with this brief introduction, now I'll invite Dr. Saurabh Arora to continue with the main presentation.
A very warm welcome to all the attendees, and I see it's good morning somewhere, good afternoon somewhere, good evening, and you got our people from all over the world. So thank you so much for taking out time and attending it. I hope it will be a fulfilling webinar for you. So the topic of the webinar is 18 steps for learning HPLC operation. HPLC is like a magnet. In my experience and working with my team, all the bench chemists really want to go and work on HPLC. It has a magical attraction and pulls any scientist working in the lab towards itself. And if you look at it closely, you know, it's rightly so, because HPLC actually provides a window to great opportunity for analytical scientists. It has diverse applications, be it in any industry, environmental sciences, healthcare, petrochemicals, personal care, biotechnology, medicine, agriculture, in fact any field you think of in material sciences or chemistry, biotechnology science, everywhere HPLCs are widely used. If you look at the sales numbers for the machines, thousands of new machines are installed each year all over the world, if not tens of thousands, creating new job opportunities for people like us. So for this reason, we all want to learn HPLC and learn it as soon as possible. Usually when we think about learning HPLC, what comes to mind is I need to know how to operate the machine, and I need to learn the latest softwares. So the Empower 3s, the Total Chrome, Easy Chrome, Chromeleon, and numerous other chromatography softwares which are there have a magical attraction towards themselves. So whenever I see a fresher come into the lab and start working, or somebody who has not earlier worked on an HPLC, they just want to be let go at the HPLC. So looking at this, huge demand and people wanting to learn HPLC, we went out to answer a question. What all does an analyst need to know to really run an HPLC? As an end product of this activity, we actually came up with a list of 18 simple steps. Based on our team skill matrix, this is an activity that we do with all our departments. So for our HPLC department, we did a skill matrix that what all skills analysts should have to be able to successfully operate an HPLC. And these activities and these steps, if it makes an analyst immediately productive in the lab. So once he is accomplished and learned these things, he can start working independently and contribute to the lab. After looking at these things, we actually realized that most of these steps can be learned even before entering the lab. In fact, more than learning new things, it is a logical flow and application of fundamentals that we have all learned during our formal education. We worked hard and converted all of this into a web-based training program, and we went on to validate this program for its effectiveness with a limited launch to 60 candidates, and we found out that it was pretty good at getting them ready, and this was given to people working in our lab. The fun part was that when we were working on this, we realized that it's actually a lot more than just software. Software operation is perhaps the easiest to learn and also the easiest to teach, because with the technology becoming more and more advanced, the interface and the software is becoming more and more intuitive. So already there are chromatography softwares which you can run from your iPad, and even my daughter's 5-year-old daughter can run an iPad now. So you can realize that software is becoming an easy part. Also at the same time, hardware has matured. Earlier we used to have frequent breakdowns and problems with hardware, but now the hardware and technology has matured and it is easier to run, easier to maintain, and there are lesser breakdowns. So with this background, you will actually be spending only a fraction of your time on software and HPLC hardware, if you know how to use it properly, that is. So what else do you need to know? So now we get started with what are the 18 steps. So step 1 is laboratory safety. So safety always comes first. Before you go into a lab or anybody lets you into a lab, you have to be aware of safety requirements and precautions to be taken. Working in a laboratory, we get to handle a lot of toxic materials, toxic solvents like maybe chloroform, acetonitrile, and the standards. Maybe if you're working in pesticides or pharmaceuticals or any other industry, you'll be handling a lot of toxic materials as pure chemical standards also. So it's very important for you to familiarize yourself with the hazard signs and what all safety gear is to be used, and do's and don'ts in the laboratory. We also need to learn about storage of these hazardous materials. Most of this you can actually very easily learn by looking up the material safety data sheet. So next time you get a new chemical or any chemical in your lab, look up the MSDS and you will find all the safety precautions to be taken. But again, that is something that a lot of us don't read and just put it aside in a file. Another important area while working in the lab in safety is managing spills. We're working with acids, solvents, and there is bound to be a spill. So you should know how to manage spills, and there should be a spill management kit in your lab for dealing with acids, dealing with solvents, buffers, biological spills, all kind of different materials, and you should have a standard procedure for dealing with it. Besides this, basic laboratory gear like pair of goggles for protecting your eyes, a lab coat, face shields, masks if you're wearing powders which are toxic, wearing safety shoes. These are all essential. Even before you can get close to an HPLC, you need to be ready with all the information and all the gear for protecting yourself and your team members. Step 2 is time management. Well, time management is important everywhere. And this is a famous saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So the same thing is true when you're working in the HPLC lab. You need to know what you're going to achieve today. You need to be ready with the sequence of events. You're going to make your samples, prepare your buffers, equilibrate your system. So all of this should be well planned, and all the materials and everything should be there that you will need. So there are just some few tips I'll give you on time management. One very important tip, and this actually will help you immediately, is the principle of touch it once. If you get anything, any kind of document, an email, or anybody calling you to do something, you should try and finish that task immediately. You just take it in your hand, process it, and get it done. If it is a long task, then you should put it in your calendar. Make a plan for it when you're going to do it, or if there's somebody else who can do it, you delegate it. So, or if you are not going to do anything with it, don't let it sit around. Just throw it away. So do it, defer it, delegate it, or dump it. Another good practice is when you go in the lab, make a list of 6 important tasks you want to accomplish that day. And usually these should be big tasks requiring about an hour of your time, and still you leave 2 working hours of that day empty for dealing with any exigencies, or somebody comes in, your boss calls you, or anything like that. So you can deal with those tasks in those 2 hours. So you should make a list, plan how long each task will take, assign time slots, and focus on the difficult projects first. The Pareto's rule is true everywhere. 20% of your work will get you 80% of the recognition, and that's usually the difficult bits. So always focus on the difficult parts and take them up first. This was more of a general overview on time management. Specifically talking about HPLC, you should have a predefined sequence, like you'll go to your lab, prepare your mobile face, set up your system for equilibration. Meanwhile, you can prepare your samples and standards, then run your system suite. Then while the data is being acquired, you can work on other samples or processing the data from your previous day. Don't waste that time. I remember when I started working on an HPLC, I would love sitting in front of the computer and looking at the peaks come up and down. I could do it for hours, but it's really a waste of time. So utilize that time. When the machine is working for you, you can do something better. Step 3. Before we can start working on the HPLC, we obviously need a method. And finding the right method can be sometimes be as easy as, there's a standard testing procedure in your company. You just pick it up and follow it. Or you might need to develop something new. Many times working with my team, I've seen that, like everything else, we also search for methods on Google. Anything we want to find, we can't find a method. Okay, Google it. But that's not the best approach. So you should first look up internal methods, look at any client, suggested methods, then look at standard references. Look at pharmacopoeias, look at the ISO standards, look at the AOAC, official methods of analysis. Look at your national standards, like in India we have Bureau of Indian Standards, or other standards are available, or AOCS for the American Oil Chemical Society. So same way in every industry, like for environment you have APHA. So there are standard methods prescribed. Most of the times you will be able to solve your problem looking at the standard references, and you won't even need to go looking for books, journals, or doing a Google search, let alone develop a method. But I've seen that we usually skip this step. So next time you're looking for a new method, look up the standard references first. But then if you don't find it, then books are good references, journals, Google search, and lastly, looking at developing a new method. Step 4. So this is important. We really need to understand the machine, the hardware that is there, to be able to really use it. If you don't understand the hardware, what is going on, you can't decide what configurations you need, you can't optimize the parameters, you can't select your columns and detectors, and obviously you can't resolve day-to-day operational problems. So if you can see this picture of an HPLC here on the right, it shows the usual components. So on the top we have these bottles. These are the solvent reservoirs. From here the tubes run into the degasser, which removes the dissolved gases, and then it goes into the pump. So this system has a low pressure quaternary gradient, so there are 4 mobile phases that it can pump through. So there are different kinds of pumps. You need to understand what kind of pump you are using, so you will be able to understand how to maintain it. It could be a syringe pump, reciprocating piston pump. So then it depends whether you need to replace the seals or O-rings or check valves. So all that you really should understand. Then under this you can see the auto sampler. This is a temperature control auto sampler. So you need to know your auto sampler to be able to select the correct size of vials to be used, replacing the auto sampler needles, maintaining correct temperature, whether you have that option or not. Then after the pump and the injector, we have the column and the column oven. So this is where the column is kept and the column temperature is maintained. So you need to know whether the column, the method requires any temperature control on the column or not. What dimension of column can fit in your column oven? I've seen this happen too many times. You'll have a method with a 300 mm column and it won't fit in your column oven. So obviously you should have known that before you ordered your column. Then finally we have the detector where the unlight is measured. This system actually has 2 detectors. One is a refractive index and the UV detector. So you need to know what kind of detectors you are using and understand the basic principle of the detector so you can troubleshoot problems. Like I did not know for a long time that a RI detector actually has 2 cells. So it has a reference cell and a sample cell. You need to clean both. You need to maintain both. If you just work on the sample cell, you will end up having deviations. So things like this, nitty-gritties you must know. And now for all analysis and acquisition of data, we have data systems attached. So here you can see a computer sitting next to it. So you need to understand the software also. So knowing the components, knowing how they work, what kind of replaceable and consumables are there in them, and the dimensions and right grades really helps you utilize the HPLC to its fullest. Step 5. Now you have your system, you understood it, and you could not find a new method. Even if you could find a new method, find a method in your organization, you should be able to understand whether the method is validated or not. Method validation is essential for assuring the reliability of results. It gives you confidence in your own work, and more often than not, a complicated validated method will actually be better for you in the long run than a simpler non-validated method. So anybody working on an HPLC must understand what are the validation parameters that we usually do. For example, you look at specificity, accuracy, precision, linearity, range, repeatability, reproducibility, and also what validation guidelines are applicable on you. So if you're working in the pharmaceutical industry, you'll usually follow ICH. In food, you'll follow AOAC. In other chemical industry, IUPAC also has a validation guideline. So knowing these guidelines, what they contain and how to use them is essential. Even if you are given a method, you should be able to evaluate that, okay, my method has a permitted reproducibility of say 50% variation is allowed, or precision 50% variation is allowed. Now I'm getting worried that my result is not coming within plus minus 2%. So if I don't know the validation data of my method, I can't use it and be certain on what kind of